Hey everybody, I'm Nico.
And I'm TK.
And this is X's for podcast show gaming stream fun time America Playland.
It's Friday, we eat what we like.
Growing up around here, there used to be an arcade slash like fun place called Fun Time America. And you could
How many
rent
people died there?
none because it wasn't like a theme park. It was like an indoor volleyball court and
you think those don't kill people?
Can I be honest? We used to rent that volleyball court all the time. There's very few sports that I'm good at. I'm good at weightlifting and I'm good at volleyball, and that's it. I just have the unusual.
So you were meant to be in Top Gun.
Yeah, I mean, oh my God, they literally used that song. They playing with the boys for an unbelievably homoerotic sequence in 911.
Oh God.
Unironically, that show has really been paying off. Really, no dividends.
It is.
Dividends.
I don't believe you. I am just dealing with the fact that it's happening.
It's
What's
really
the
funny.
one with Nathan Fillion?
That's The Rookie, which had a spinoff, which was canceled.
Was a spinoff or got a spinoff?
It got a spinoff, and the spinoff
it has nothing
was
to do with 911.
Correct. The Rookie is separately Nathan Fillion, and then Niecy Nash had a spinoff that was like The Rookie Undercover Feds or something.
Okay.
And that lasted like 1 or 2 seasons or something.
That is so fucking unfair. She is amazing. You guys do need to watch Claws at some point.
We will, but then I'm gonna wait for Kevin to come back because I can't wait to tell you. Like, there's magic synergy. Anyway.
Right. We had comic stuff we wanted to talk about, right?
Well, kind of. So, okay, here's where I want to start. I want to start with one of the craziest things for me about the state of what's going on with comics right now is I'm genuinely frustrated with I'm trying to map this direction that the X-Men books are going, and I'm like thinking about where it all started, and I'm trying to imagine, could I have seen where we are a year ago? I'm thinking about where Krakoa was in January of 2024, and I'm thinking about where I sit in January of 2025. And I'm a little baffled.
I mean, you couldn't have seen where it is, but earlier you did have a lot of questions about the sustainability of the whole thing. And
you mean me personally?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like you talked a lot about the fact that we were maybe being a little absurd with this idea that it was going to last like a really long time.
Well, and that's something that the more I think about it, I'm thinking about like iterative dalliance with era of company. Like when by the way, I do want to ask, when was the last time you played? Just like not in a creeper way, but like you're like my best friend. I love you so much, and like I stalk you a little. And so like, I'm always on Discord, and I haven't seen Rivals pop on too much lately. So I was wondering the last time you got on here and got to rival it up.
The big thing is Discord broke on this computer.
Oh.
And so I got it working again, but for a while it just wasn't reporting. I mean, I wasn't using Discord while I was playing, but even still, it's been a minute. I think it's Friday, so I think the last time I played was maybe Sunday.
Fascinating. When you break up with a game?
Oh, yes.
I broke up with Rivals a little bit for now.
Yeah, I mean, part of my thing is like, I didn't break up, but I was like, oh, you're that kind of poly where you don't need a relationship. You got plenty of people to take care of you. It doesn't need to be just me.
No, and that's one of the things that I think is... Okay, so that's even where I am with trying to figure out what's going on with X-Men. When this iteration of Ultimate started, I was like, oh, wow, I'm going to skip this. I have no interest in Ultimate Invasion. I have no interest in going down that road, even though I love Hickman and I love Maker. This just isn't where my heart or head are at. So then I start thinking about, well, what about, giving it a chance once the reviews are so positive. I give it a chance. You're telling me I should give it a chance. And yeah, you were right. It was a really great time. I loved falling in love with this new version of the Ultimate Universe. but now I'm starting to worry about its quality of realistic sustainability, because where it loses a little bit of steam is the real-time energy was where the sexy was, and we are no longer feeling real-time sexy.
I agree insofar as, oh my god, my immediate concern was the sustainability. It is very fun, but a big thing is like we already did this, girl. Like we had an Ultimate Universe and we've had real-time universes, and the value proposition of we're do-over, we're give us another chance is never a good thing with Marvel. I'm never buying it. You just can't. I can't do this anymore. I can't do this with them. But so for me, it really. My initial concern, as soon as it started, even with the stuff that I liked, was that I didn't see it as sustainable. And doing my best to reserve judgment, doing my best to be open to the possibilities, that concern remains. I don't know. There's nothing about this that quite rings true to me. And again, especially as you said, like the real-time aspect of it, I don't know what that's netting us. And I don't know where that goes when the 2 years is up.
And I'm so sorry. So I think that it winds up putting us in a place where the nature of how the books come together to paint a picture becomes really unfocused. The amount of stuff going on with the Ultimate books is almost kind of running too parallel to one another. They're not really engaging and interacting and weaving together the way I kind of would have hoped. I love this idea of having so many disparate voices come in, but like it actually does feel like the Ultimate Universe is taking the threads of Krakoa and doing it again. What if we get a couple of different books by some very different authors revisiting classic ideas in new ways and give them kind of like a carte blanche to do whatever they want to do with it? And I think it does not feel quite as homogenous here. Whereas I was very frustrated with the concept of what's going on with I'm so sorry. I was frustrated with the concept of what was going on with X-Men, but I feel like it's really come into focus at this point. And so I'm feeling X-Men has really come into focus, whereas Ultimate is all over the place. In part because like some of the worst ideas from X-Men's relaunch, some of the worst stuff from the Ashes just fell apart quickly, just melted overnight. And so I think that's even part of it. Like, I don't think Sentinels is going to keep going. And while I think that the creative team behind Sentinels are very talented, I don't think Sentinels is the world's greatest book.
Yeah, I don't think Sentinels is the world's greatest book, but you're right. I mean, it is the mini, but it's also a little weird that they kind of said that nothing was a mini and this was all going to be a lot of long-term books, and then some of them were minis, which is appropriate. It's okay that some of them are minis. It's just like Marvel oftentimes seems to know what they're doing wrong, and they kind of lie about the fact that they fixed it, which I find a little bit exhausting. And I hear what you're saying about, like, I mean, about the Ultimate Universe. The thing that we talked about on Wednesday that remains true for me is I love adult Peter Parker. I love Peter Parker with kids and a family and a life. And I think Ultimates is executing that in a way that reads sustainable in the book, but I know the publishing of the Ultimate line is not sustainable. And that is a thing that really bugs me. I love Peach Momoko's Ultimate X-Men, but it doesn't feel like a long-term strategy. It doesn't feel like a long-term plan. Black Panther is somewhere in between. I don't know, man. I'm just always skeptical about anything that is technically the Avengers. I don't know what to do with them. And so Ultimates Ultimate's rings basically wrong to me. And I don't know, that's not a great track record. But I really like Ultimate Spider-Man, and unfortunately I think it's the closest we're getting to having our darling Mayday and that Spider family back ever again.
Yeah, and I feel like part of that has to do with the fact that Marvel finds it easier to just publish something new than to go back and publish the same stuff again. It's so difficult to kind of not notice the Neil Gaiman stuff going on, and that they are taking upcoming projects out of pre-publication, out of development, that they're canceling re-releases and republishings. It's hard not to see how, if you base too much of your line for too long on one person's name, you can wind up in a situation then where what do you do when you can no longer publish any of that? What do you do when you can no longer, return to that well without it being kind of muddied?
It's why, they kind of in a lot of ways lucked out. We don't rely on his Eternals run. We don't rely on Angela. 1602 is the biggest contribution that he has, that they were so prescient about making it just a little bit different for What If, such that it feels like it's not really his property anymore. It's inspired by that idea very loosely, but it's not that thing. And they've published enough 1602 stories without him. They're good. They're like kind of set on Gaiman.
And prior to today, they were the one of the big three that had really kind of come forward and been like, nope, we're good. It was the last couple of days where you've seen Dark Horse make an announcement. Netflix made their announcement. The people who are being very, we'll say, are DC, who, built an empire off of him. So it's hard not to.
And just announced the Vertigo relaunch was clearly well into planning when that article came out.
Yeah, and it's just tough.
And the Endless are pretty integral to DC now at this point, right?
Yeah.
They don't show up a ton, but they are fundamental forces. Yes,
I think what I want to say is, moreover, that you can take anything out of vogue with the right amount of time.
Yeah, totally.
You can really shut down anything if you want, and it does not matter how important the Endless have been if you put in the effort to create something different. Because I think people forget that, as much as we've made the point on this show, She-Hulk really was Deadpool before Deadpool, and then it sort of became that Deadpool was the banner holder for that kind of fourth wall breaking nonsense that we love. And people then said, oh, well, She-Hulk doing that was just copying Deadpool, except She-Hulk was doing it for nearly 20 years before Deadpool was a character.
Right.
So it winds up being, I guess, really an interesting matter of construction. I also wonder then if that is why we don't see more Miracle Man.
Oh, because it's Gaiman?
He legally owns it. Or did own it and gave it to Marvel.
That's an interesting one.
He published.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah, all of the Miracle Man, the Golden Age, the Silver Age, that's all him.
Yeah.
So,
we hadn't, maybe Marvel knew stuff that we didn't know, but we hadn't had any of that come out in the time that it took them to kind of center Miracle Man a bunch and then pull back from it.
Yeah, because the end of the day, one of the things that we don't really talk about is nearly every we go back to iteration of characters that were featured in Astonishing X-Men is their astonishing version. And we don't go out of our way to say, but not Joss Whedon, because you don't have to. You can point to all of the other people who weren't Joss Whedon that worked on those characters.
Yeah.
So it's just that John Cassidy era Kitty Pryde, and you can kind of get around it. I don't know. It really pushes us to think about why we don't always bring up. It gets so difficult because like I don't always want to bring up the bad things, but I always want to bring up the stuff that I loved. And what I love is Wolverine saying, and what I do is so terribly pretty. And who I love is not Joss Whedon. So it becomes really tricky when you want to, as I saw recently put in a response to you on Blue Sky, when you want to remember that so many other people created this art as well.
Yeah. Yes, that was put to me talking about Neil Gaiman. And it's funny, I really have been thinking a lot about the fact I have a giant Sandman tattoo. And, at the end of the day, there is a real sense of like, I can hate Neil Gaiman and still have been positively affected by the work and love all of the artists that worked on it and love my tattoo artists who gave me this thing and love the idea of Dream that like lives in my mind, inspired by the work of a bad person. But like, I have a lot of, I'm working on a whole series of stories based on Lovecraft stuff, which millions of people do. And it's not a special concept, that one. But Howard Lovecraft was also a really terrible racist piece of shit. And
you can't possibly have strong feelings based on a fictional work explained to you by a horrible person. What would Christians do?
Truly. Thank you. And yeah, as I said, Lovecraft, bad guy. But the concepts and characters that he created live in my head independent of him, inspired by what I took from him, but filtered through my own lens. And, my Dream tattoo is very similar. It's filtered through the lens of my tattoo artist and of me and of course, it's a visual art. So like that especially is filtered through the lens of, all of the artists that worked on Sandman that we pulled together a portfolio of to draw the inspiration for the tattoo. So, Gaiman's a weird place to be in right now. I'm pretty sad about Sandman not getting more seasons, but I fully get it. I think I'm also really wondering about the audio drama, which I believe had a 4th season recorded and was picked up for a final one after that, but I don't believe that was recorded, so I think they probably won't ever record it. I'm just kind of curious to know if they're going to release the last one.
I feel like, to jump in.
Yay! Hi, KEVO!
Hello. 2 major factors in this that I've been thinking about, and how we respond to these things. Obviously, first and foremost is how you approach them. I don't think anyone in this room is saying that we're on board with Gaiman. And so, if you're not out here trying to defend him, that is a huge component of trying to properly process your feelings on the art that is attached to the artist. Because it's not, you're not trying to defend someone to protect the art, and that's great. But it's also, I think, likelihood or liability of doing further damage is also a huge factor. Like, I don't think anyone's working with Joss Whedon. I don't think anyone's working with Neil Gaiman again. Yet people continue to try working with and working around J.K. Rowling. And, those are the differences in how we continue to enjoy or promote or appreciate someone's art, whether or not we feel like the promotion of that art is going to continue to give them power. I'm still coming to a lot of terms with Buffy as something being one of those examples, but that's another one of those things where, again, like you'd mentioned, so many hands touched that program, so many writers worked on it, so many producers, and these are also factors in certain pieces of art, especially with the the Sandman television show. Neil Gaiman we're not sure how directly involved he was, and there were so many people that were creatively involved in it, so it's tough.
Yeah, shows are always, in some ways, I don't want to use the word easier, but easier because they are made by this enormous committee, and there is still so much positive to take away from Buffy. Even just like from Sarah Michelle Gellar being the fucking icon that she is alone. That leaves us with enough to take away from Buffy, that even if Joss Whedon is terrible, we can still love it. And also there's just so much of it that he did not write.
And that's even, I think, part of where the conversation kind of does also have to be when shows do have so many more people involved. There are reports that David Boreanaz wouldn't stop flashing people his dick, like all over set. And I remember saying that to KEVO when we first got together, and he was like, I've never seen that. I don't disbelieve you, but that sounds insane. And then years later, Sarah Michelle Gellar flat out said it in an interview to David Boreanaz.
Entertainment Weekly called him out. Yeah, she was like, you used to do this. And she says it like, haha, but it still is.
Debbie Harry, David Bowie style, but...
Yeah. But that's, technically workplace harassment.
So I do hear that, but then, like, I think one of the things that we also forget is when something is made by committee, that's a whole lot more people, because I'll never forget that it turns out one of the writers who had the most influence on the dialogue of early Buffy is Jeff Loeb.
Yeah.
Some of the greatest Buffy quotes of all time were published in The Long Halloween first. It's insane how many amazing Buffy quotes are actually Jeff Loeb comic book quotes that he repurposed. Because here's the other thing. You can absolutely 90s TV show style eat my shorts if you are not willing to acknowledge that outside of fandom behavior, for the most part, very few people will interact with every piece of your art. So if you've got a great line, I'm sorry about it, but it's not watch everything camp. It's not important that everybody watches everything. So when a writer wants to reuse a line, I actually don't have a problem with it, but it is important to sometimes remember that, yeah, some of the other people that did these things, like, and you never want to even get into the question of, like, I'm not here to get into the question of who was complicit with what and who knew what when. That's not even part of it. But the question is, who is going to stand by those people? We, to bring up 911 again, the greatest new show of our lives, Malcolm Jamal Warner has an arc in the ABC seasons, and that is an actor who at one point was defending Mr. William put shit in your Jello Cosby.
Oh yeah, Adam Baldwin was just on, was it Lone Star that he was on? Yeah, because it was a Regina Torres reunion. He was just on Lone Star for a few episodes. He's not the greatest, but he's a working actor in Hollywood who's not been arrested for anything, as far as I know, or at least has not been sent to prison. So, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do about it?
You said the ABC seasons. Where does it go after?
No. It started on Fox, and the spinoff started on Fox, and then when ABC bought Fox, or essentially, you know what I mean. Yeah. Lone Star stayed on Fox, but took a season off. So there's a year without one of the shows, and then it comes back for a final season the next year and stays on Fox. But in that gap year, the main show moves to ABC, where it remains.
It was technically canceled by Fox, and ABC picked it up immediately. It had been suspected that would be what happened, and it did. But all the same parent company in the end. So
right.
And when I guess I can only describe it as the Meredith Grey to Bailey's lead in season 7 just becomes super bi.
Yeah.
With another giant over-muscled hot guy.
Yeah.
The gay factor is so funny because KEVO and I were having a conversation about this, and I don't know if it's because KEVO understands Fox to be Fox News related, but like KEVO's interpretation was Fox is a little bit more conservative than ABC, and I come from the place where Fox had Method and Red, and ABC liked to pretend that it was all sorts of Diane Sawyer. And so like I saw ABC, even traditionally to this day, I see when ABC does a Desperate Housewives as them trying to be ballsy, but at the end of the day, they're going to default to a little bit more conservative. Whereas I see Fox as 90210-ish,
Yeah.
And when they try to do something classy, that's cute, but they're the sloppy bitches. So the fact that 90210's moved to 90210, Jesus Christ, and 911's moved to ABC, it got more aggressive. I was really impressed. Kevo, go.
I'd even elaborated. It's how I came to realize what I think I ultimately view it as is ABC is more liberal in terms of diversity and all that woke crap, but a lot more conservative in terms of sex and things that are lascivious. Fox will be a lot more raunchy, but you're not going to have as many queer characters. Or if you do, they're not going to be able to do as much. And I'm even specifically speaking from the experience of Fox shows that I've watched, and even ones that we watched together, like Melrose, Party of Five, The OC. I really feel like if you ever have queer characters, they are rarely shown to be able to do anything explicitly or excessively queer. And you can be a lot more queer on ABC, but not sexually. You can't be as sexy. You can't be as sexual. And I think I even would say, I don't know if I would. We've only gotten 8 or 9 episodes into ABC, so I don't know. Oh, Jesus Christ, Tori. Thank you for showing up for us to talk about the OC.
I just burst out laughing. Tori popping in with a good old-fashioned California.
I am fully
born
for this.
She's
one.
almost
You gotta call it all out.
What?
I said I'm fully not reading comments for this right now, so you got to call
Yes,
it out.
no, totally fair. Totally fair.
I really think that when I saw on a list of when I found that article that was like, did you know that Rashida Jones was the backup vocalist on Songs About Jane? It also said, did you know that Jason Schwartzman was in Phantom Planet? And I just want to be like, first
That
of all,
one
no
makes
one
me want to kill myself. I didn't know Jason Schwartzman was no longer in Phantom Planet.
Yeah, for like a long time now. Like a long time, right?
No, yeah, for a very long time.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, like,
was he in that song?
Yeah.
Yes, he's in California.
That's crazy. Oh, I never knew that.
The one of the things that I want to like kind of bring this all back together with a really clear intersectionality on the discussion is there's a rumor going around that and I'm gonna put this out there. There's a rumor going around that Hugh Jackman will continue to play Wolverine, but he will not be the MCU's Logan because he will play exactly what Old Man Logan is.
Yes.
The old man version of Wolverine from a dead universe who doesn't want that to happen to other people that he loves. So he's going to do whatever he can to protect this younger generation. And they will cast a new, different Wolverine that will, I guess, be some iterative concept thereof. And
somebody who will not look creepy hitting on Jean Grey.
No, but like one of the things that has me the most excited about all of this is I was talking to Kevo about how there's only so many old mans that really matter. Because Marvel a couple of years ago really gave up on the End brand.
Yeah.
For a couple of years, they'd had this brand that was The End. And it was what if the Marvel Universe literally did have to come to an end for this period of time, and this character was the focal point. They did Marvel Universe The End, Hulk The End. They did an incredibly successful 18-issue megalith. X-Men The End, literally one of the best things that Chris Claremont has ever done in his career. And however, my favorite The End is by far the most creative, spectacular, special The End of all time. Daredevil End of Days, which is a remarkable attempt by the creators of the even if you like another era better, like I do prefer the Wade era, the Bendis era is the golden age of Daredevil. Like, I mean, in a really textual, clear way, the Bendis era is the golden age. And it's the entire best of the Bendis era. It's Bendis, Mack, Klaus Janson all coming together, and they even understood things that they found out that Sewell was going to do later. And so, like, they incorporated the eventual return of Echo into the story. And, like, so cool, so good, so special. But Old Manification has really replaced this enterprise of Marvel storytelling. Old Manification.
It's funny because Old Manification was like even kind of a separate thing that came out of the end, because they found that people like those stories so much they would do darker versions of them, because a lot of the ends are like Chris Claremont's The End is very weird and very cool, but it is just kind of a lot of his ideas coming to the final fruition.
18 issues of Chris Claremont being like, and what if I got to kill everybody I love?
And then they created The Wasteland, and they I don't know if you know this, but there is a bunch of Wasteland audio dramas.
Yeah. Kevo, what you got? Because I know you can't look. Kevo's got a finger in the air.
Oh, right. Thank you for pointing that out. I also really wonder if Old Manification is a response to what had originally been, there were always older mentor characters like the Irohs or those type figures, Sirius Black in the Harry Potter series, where they were these characters that were introduced with a long history that we then yearned for prequels from. But I really, and it ties into what I've been thinking about, so much of how far we've come in media storytelling, and how we have things like Marvel comics that have existed for 60 years. So now you have characters who we've already known forever that instead we want to now see as that old mentor figure. Sort of the reversal of, we have this old man that we want to learn more about. Instead, it's kind of a, we want to see someone we know so much about be that figure.
I really appreciate that take, because one of the things that I find, all right, then, okay. One of the things I find with the nature of Old Manification is it focuses so much on the, God, and this sounds so dumb, but it focuses so much on the ready to die, whereas so much of the ends were about surviving. I'm
interesting
playing through Final Fantasy Remake, and I can't stop talking about it because I was lucky enough to have a chance to revisit my own work, and I say that because, like, you really do learn when you listen back to yourself. And when this show was an audio format that was a little bit different, hey, all of our amazing podcast listeners, it's so cool to see that number going up. And thank you again for voting us number one on some lists. It's really exciting to be thought of. But I was listening back to an episode recently, and in it I said it can be really rewarding when you see people love what they make what they love. And I was surprised by it. Like, that felt more attractive than something I would normally say. And so I was so pleased by it, and so, like, wow. And I really do think that applies to Final Fantasy VII Remake. And it also applies to Marvel Rivals. And I'm purposefully bringing those up because the gamification of these identities is central to the freedom to have mistakes. Something that came up in talking about Gaiman and Whedon that I thought of is, to be honest with you, yeah, everybody, quick, name a failed Joss Whedon TV show. I can name two.
Nevers.
Dollhouse, huge failure. No matter how much you love it.
Although I give Dollhouse so much credit for completing an entire story arc. It failed because it was not. They managed to do it, but they obviously wanted it to go longer, and it didn't go longer.
Yeah,
and I can name several failed Neil Gaiman projects. We already discussed his frankly poorly received Eternals. Like, we can point to their failures, but one of the things that happens is there are people like J.K. Rowling who the world only thinks has one work. The whole world does not really understand that this idiot has written more than just Harry Potter. And so there's this sense of reblinderification around one person who's never made a mistake in their life. And so then when you're talking about these characters and you're refocusing on trying to relaunch in a movie or trying to relaunch in a TV show or trying to relaunch in a comic run, it's one thing by one person doing one iteration. But you know what? In a video game, your play style influences your experience. when you play, how you play, who you play against, if you play with friends, if the game is communal or if the game is solo play. So many things affect your playthrough. And I think that's part of where I find my heart so excited about video games in the last couple of years, where perhaps my favorite comic book of the last decade is the Midnight Suns video game, because I truly felt like that was the best parts of 1980s Claremont Sienkiewicz living at the New Mutants mansion, being one of the X-Kids. That is the vibe I got from the community at night playing after you did your day mission. The day missions felt like short burst stories against common villains. The arc was narrative and nuanced and clever. Like, I don't know. I think for what it's worth, giving me the ability to choose what comes next, even if it is a predetermined progress, giving me the X button changes the experience. I'm not saying that I want to press W to change pages in a comic, but I am saying that we are moving toward a place where the gamification of these stories is part of my engagement.
Well, and I think, this always started as graphic storytelling, and video games are interactive graphic storytelling. There's kind of always room for it. And, the really amazing thing about, basically all video games that Marvel is trying to explore is that they have, this the thing I keep talking about with why Overwatch failed or is failing or is really flagging, and Rivals is just getting its start, is because Marvel already did all the development and has so many stories to tell. Like, even, as much as I don't super love this particular event story, this is Blood Hunt, which they just produced, and then they were like, okay, we can use this for an event in our game too. And we're gonna have Inferno at some point, like, and Madeline Pryor could eventually be a character. We have thousands of characters that can be turned into playable characters, and then we have thousands of stories that we can put those characters in. And the frustrating thing about Overwatch was that they developed these amazing characters, and then people were like, oh, okay, like, you also do these incredible animated shorts. We'd take a full movie, we'd take more comics, we'd take, more PvE storytelling so that we can, or gameplay so that we can get stories told in the PvE environment. And they didn't do any of it. They just flagged every single time. And I really do feel like not just Rivals, but so many, like, even if it's just more single player games like Midnight Suns, there's just so many ways to take the visuals of the Marvel universe, make them fun and interactive, and let people play in, the sandbox or whatever it's going to be in that particular case. And we've got games coming out. We've got what's the Captain America World War II one we got coming up?
Oh shit, thank you for reminding me. There are so many games that I did not feel would be applicable to me not having a current gen console or a PC that could really game, but I have recently had somebody help me come into PC play gaming abilities, and could not be more grateful, because someone clearly loves me. And I just really wrote off a lot of games that I had been really excited about, because it's so funny when you have no money and a system, you spend all of your time thinking about the games you can't buy. When you've got no money and no system, you kind of disconnect and just look into what's going on. When you've got, I guess, money to spend, if you don't spend on other things, and some way to play, all of a sudden you're like, I have to be very careful about the games I get excited about. Very, very careful. I have a very short list. And like you wind up in this like headspace, and I've just written off so many games that I was excited about. I think I've spent a lot of time being excited about Insomniac's Wolverine because it's so far off that I feel like no matter how excited I am about it, I have time.
Yeah. I also that one feels like it could be the start of a thing, of Insomniac kind of getting more into the mutant game. But the other thing I will say is something that we talked about. You got a gaming PC and you had a lot of catching up to do and a lot of games to play. And the really great thing is you got to experience a lot of these games not paying $50 for them when they are maybe worth 20. Sure, like that's awesome. For all of the content on some of them, a 35 is great. Like if you get like an Elden Ring or something for 35.
Hold on, let me ask you: 6 discs of the worst album you've ever heard. I know it's a lot of music, but does it really deserve the big paycheck?
Right. You got to dive into all of the Arkham games. And one of your immediate observations was like, for a video game character game, this one really takes the cake and beats a lot of the other ones, including, and I don't think you're wrong about this, even though it is very hyped and very loved, including Spider-Man.
Yeah. Sony, one of those things where like you can see what's an internal memo and what's an actual press release from a group. Sony getting basted for the release of Spider-Man 2 this week on the Steam store. Not a clean drop, not what people were looking for. And it's so crazy because Spider-Man 1 really dominated everything. And I remember being a youngin' and being all excited about the fact that they made an Animorphs game. And thinking this was going to explore ideas in the books that I was excited about at that level. Yeah. But I also think about the fact that when I was like 6, I remember going to Epcot and Epcot telling me that one day you're going to go up to your car and it's just going to know that you're you and unlock. And like in your head, you're like, your car will know your DNA. And now as an adult, you're like, oh, it's because you have a fob in your pocket.
No chip.
And,
yeah.
And now you understand. But like, I think the kind of trade-off is the technology that it would have taken to create a video game at the level that Animorphs would have needed to perform at didn't exist back then. And now there's not really a demand for Animorphs. But when I look back at one of the greatest games I remember playing as a kid, I just like, I've said it a few times, but like I did kind of get into gaming because of a guy, not for a guy, but there was a cute guy with a butt and I just had to be a gamer so he would touch my stuff. And it turned out I loved gaming. I did not love all of the same types of games he did. Honestly, fighting games were his big thing and did not become my thing by any stretch. But one of the fighting games that he was like, hey, this is why I think we might get along. You really love comics, and I love X-Men Next Dimension. Would you play this game with me?
No.
Honestly, I actually beg to differ. There is something really magical about the way that game sought to try to include characters like Bastion and Revanche, I think at the time it labeled her. I know it sounds silly, but like that game was bad with great parts. The ultimate,
and bad with great intentions for sure.
Yeah, and that Animorphs will only have ever had the bad with great intentions game, and will never get anything in this greater age of video games. But we have this opportunity to explore bad games, bad, like platformers from 1997 with the X-Men. But we're going to get to explore it in this age where it's not weird if you do a retro throwback platformer level in the middle of your expansive MMORPG. I don't know. I am really excited that X-Men has never had a better opportunity to craft games, and I hope that this Insomniac Wolverine game starts a golden age of superhero gaming, the way that I would say Invincible led to a change in the way people saw superhero stories in a modern way.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I will also be interested to see how this partnership with NetEase pulls other things into fruition. You know, we did some play in the beta for Mystic Mayhem, which I think is a fantastic game with a fantastic style. You know, it's a very kind of basic autoplay RPG, you know, strategy RPG style game. It's very cool, but it's a really different game than what people want from something like an Insomniac X-Men game. So I don't think NetEase can be everything to Marvel, but I think it can be a lot of interesting things. And, you know, a lot of these games, like Mystic Mayhem, I will say, has like some pretty solid story, has some cute story. I'm interested to see where it goes. But these games aren't really about the story. They are kind of about just the, you know, the daily missions, the play, the microtransactions, unfortunately.
Yeah, did you watch that unbelievably long? I mean, long, like this was Barrett long levels of too much. Kabam did a Twitch stream today for Contest
I
of
did see
Champions.
that they did one. I did not watch it because they're usually not long, and usually if I'm like 15 minutes out, I've missed the big thing.
I watched the whole hour and 15 minutes. I love that it's obviously pre-recorded, but
Yeah.
there is somebody in the chat going, guys, there is no giveaway. Stop spamming the chat with what one guy put. It's that moment from Superstore. It's the one guy on Twitter trying to get Snowpocalypse happening. It's the most absurd thing. But they are, as somebody who subscribed to the Summoner Sigil the minute it went on sale, that game has all of my loyalty. It will have all of my loyalty forever. I actually wonder what I will do when that game shuts down. Like, I will feel a weird... I've never not been able to play Super Mario Brothers 3 on multiple systems. This has never been a concern of mine. Nintendo makes it really easy for me to play what is like if you were having a panic attack and you needed to breathe into a paper bag, my paper bag is Super Mario Brothers 3. It might be Super Mario Galaxy. You know what? Super Mario Land and Super Mario World as well. Like classic Mario platformers, pretty much anything pre-Odyssey. It's not that I don't like Odyssey. It's that Odyssey is not my game. I'm really excited about whatever comes next. I've never had to worry about what happens when the game that brings me the most happiness in the world goes away. I don't know what I'm going to do when Contest of Champions, which I have been playing slightly longer than we've been with Jonah. I don't know what I'll do when it goes away. I'm not looking forward to that day. I'll be one of those creeps who keeps his phone on forever so that it never disconnects.
So that it
from
can't
his
leave the
server.
room. Yeah. Did they say anything about being close to shutting down?
Oh my God, no! They've said the opposite. They're like, we're doing great. But like, how many games have a decade of mobile support? Like, Bejeweled 2, Zuma
Ooh.
Deluxe.
The fandom that I care about actually just lost a game, and they are a fandom that does not have a lot of games, but Simpsons Tapped Out just closed like last week actually, and it was this Simpsons mobile game that has been around since like 2012, and my little Simpsons meme group that I love, everyone was super devastated. And you know, it's just a matter of like I said, 2012, and it's 2025. Sometimes it's just a matter of it's 13 years, nothing gold can stay.
And like, I am still to this day really frustrated about how technology did not think forward enough. That my favorite Final Fantasy games include the Tactics Advance series, which Tactics Advance was a GBA game, and then Tactics Advance 2 Grimoire of the Rift was it was a GBA game. No, it was a DS game, and it was if you had the first iteration of the DS, you could put it. I'm misremembering what game it is, but like you literally needed the one version of the console that had 2 different generation slots to be able to load this one special feature, and like now it's just gone forever. Tori is a fan, hey, because she's still in the chat, and so I'm super excited. Tori is a fan of Monopoly Go, and Monopoly is like a literal core part of my being. KEVO knows that Monopoly is like a thing that is like a tradition in my family. I have like classic and like collector's editions of Monopoly and Clue. I really love classic board games. That's where my heart is. And I was saying to Tori that I'm really glad that I've gotten into Monopoly Go so much, if for no other reason. Beth Orton Super Pinky Mandy wants you to roll the dice and gives you free spins all day, every day. Tori, that is a double reference for you because there's an awesome cover of William Orbit and Beth Orton's Roll the Dice in the OC. It gives you rolls all day. But I evidently really missed out on the Marvel edition of Monopoly Go. They did a special like summer-long Marvel event, and they don't bring it back. So I all the time see people using Rocket Raccoon shields, but I'm never going to have an opportunity to get those myself. And it's like, why taunt me? Why? Oh, it's like it's pre-order exclusives. I'm going to flip the table.
Oh man, they'll bring it back, right?
No, evidently they've never done that.
They've never brought a thing back.
Yeah, and I think
how
that
long
has
has this
to do
game
with,
been running?
I think 3 or 4 years.
Okay, so that's not. They could bring stuff back.
But like, they could, but like they haven't. So like, I mean, oh. Speaking of going like this, have you guys been like faggoty attention? Like, baby, all I need is tonight. Faggoty attention. That guy has the best voice. Have you guys paid attention to what movie is minutes away from going into pre-production?
A lot of movies. So which one are you talking?
What?
Mira Sorvino and Lisa Kudrow
Yeah.
are publicly close to signing for the Romy and Michelle sequel.
Yeah.
And
I've seen those.
Like, there are so few movies that, like, he couldn't control his erection in front of you. Like, there are so few movies that, I invented Post-its. Like, there are so few movies. No, you didn't. Like, and Janine Garofalo. Like,
I had the formula for glue.
Oh my God.
When I worked at Banana Republic back in 2011, that one, not my manager, Chris, but the other Chris, there were only so few things in our break room that there were to watch, and it was either always I Love Lucy or just Romy and Michelle on repeat. So, yeah, I heard a lot. I don't know that I've ever seen that movie all the way start to finish.
Oh my God.
I know.
I don't know. There's not many movies I've seen more times start to finish.
There are so few movies that I can do a single character's dialogue if I really tune in.
Okay, can we cover and review it, but only if we also cover and review the prequel movie starring Katherine Heigl that's written by the woman who wrote the original movie?
Yes.
I'm down.
I also just need to say, did you see that article going around? Because, I mean, first of all, I am to this day... I understand that a lot of people it's Zach De La Rocha, but for me, it's Serge Tarkanian. I just the day I catch on fire. But did you see why he said that opening for Slayer was tough for him?
No.
The audience threw bagels at them.
Okay.
So I'm a big SOAD fan, and they're getting ready for a summer tour, and I am pretty sure I'm going to spend an irresponsible amount of money to go see SOAD this summer.
There's some great nostalgia acts on the Warped Tour this summer too. That
they just added Drain, and I'm like, wow, this is incongruous. A simple plan.
For me, it was Dance Hall Crashers, who are one of my favorite ska bands, and
that's insane.
Yeah, and they haven't been together in a very long time.
That's why I'm saying that's insane.
Yeah. So it was a bit of a big deal. But I don't know. I mean, I could be convinced to go.
If Pierre Bouvier is going to be there and is going to tell me that he'll do anything to fall asleep with me, no, I think what I would, if you really want to get me there, oh man, I'm trying to think if there's anybody that could really get me to go to Warped Tour again. Yeah, I guess you could maybe get Midtown back together. If we're just like putting wishes into the universe, maybe Midtown gets back together and just does Living Well is the Best Revenge, beginning to end, just for me. Hey Gabe, you're beautiful. But I don't know. That's a wow. I feel like that's even part of what my parents are experiencing. My parents are tragically cool for their age in a way that is irrepressible. They are cool in a way that I like to pretend they're not. And they love doing this 60s cruise that's like, I think it's morphed into like a 50s, 60s, and 70s cruise because, you know, people die, Linda. And so
they've consolidated what artists are remaining.
Yeah, and like, oh, you had a song in 1969? Yeah, you're a 60s artist, you're good.
Well, you can't.
And so my parents love this cruise, and sometimes they talk to me about it like Kesha doesn't do this, and like they're so excited, and like I think I really hope I'm not coming off condescending because I mean it as positively as you can. They feel included in a cultural revolution of artists not stopping. Earlier today, Mark Cohn, one of the greatest songwriters of his generation, one of the most important, people to ever touch a piano, announced that he has Parkinson's, so he will be stopping touring soon. And I think about how the fact that for many people, Mark Cohn is just walking in Memphis. What he really is a brilliant songwriter with decades of hits, decades of scoring and composition. But if you were an artist in the 90s, you were on before they were rock stars till the day you were on Where Are They Now? And it was you were here till you were old. And we've entered an age, thanks to Indiegogo, Kickstarter, social media, and more, where artists don't have to lay down and die because they're no longer top 40. And the idea that my parents get to see these artists that they thought they would never get to see, and like I talked about it the other day, but I get to see Janet Jackson and Mariah Carey in the same week. That feels unfair. That feels unfair to young me who would practice dance moves in the living room. It is such a different context of things because Chris Claremont is still publishing comics. When Stan Lee continued publishing comics in the 90s, it was not with the same, these books are books that we're putting out for sale. It was a little bit more like, look, Grandpa's doing a book.
And everybody gather around and be nice about it.
But I'm telling you, when you go to an LCS, there are people that go, oh, good, there's a Claremont book this week? Good, somebody who knows how to write a fucking comic. And that's their right. People that are going to be at balls to the moon over a book that I am telling you, I'm hoping will be better than what Avengers vs. Alien has wound up being, where really, Valeria, really, my dear, you trip and die. I don't want to hear one fucking complaint about Prometheus ever again. I'm hoping Godzilla vs. X-Men by Fabian Nicieza in May is going to be everything I'm dreaming of, because I've never loved Godzilla as much as I love it now, thanks to the Monarch verse, which is a remarkable experience to be had. And I don't know, I feel like there is Fabian Nicieza would have in the Wizard Age of comics been treated as put out to pasture. But this motherfucker is out here living an incredible life, publishing some incredible, amazing comics. Like, he is still as vital as he is, instead of being told he's too old to be vital. And I think that that's a big switch in comics that we are still kind of adapting to. And I think gaming has to adapt to it as well, because the same people that played Final Fantasy VII when it came out are the people that bought PS5s to play Final Fantasy VII Remake when that came out too.
Yeah, I mean, that's a real one. Like, our generation and like younger Generation X, we gamed when we were kids and then we kept gaming. and we kept buying
Pokemon
systems.
remakes.
Yeah, like we kept buying systems. We like for a lot of people, it wasn't, and it's so different than comics where it's like a lot of people are like, I would really like if you would make the books that I read when I was a kid. Nobody says that about video games.
I don't want me a Duke Nukem 3D.
Yeah, like you might want that property, but you do want to see it updated. You might want some nostalgia back, but you don't want that to be the state of gaming. Where for some people, especially older people, that does seem to be where they go immediately with comics, which is just like, I just want it to be like it was back in my day.
Who's really struggling with that right now is the Power Rangers fandom. I didn't look further into it than a cursory meme making fun of a headline that I didn't look into. But my understanding is that they are looking to once again try to revamp, revitalize, and repackage Mighty Morphin Power Rangers in some way, shape, and form, rather than continuing to push forward with the franchise, build new things, etc. And even the Power Rangers fandom itself is starting to be like, enough with the Mighty Morphin. Yeah, we all loved it, but we want something new. But unfortunately, wider outside of the Power Rangers fandom, that is what sells. And that is what you need to be thinking about, is wider fandom too.
The Plex channels have Sanctuary. Do you guys remember Sanctuary with Amanda Tapping?
Yeah.
Okay, so as the world's needlessly biggest Stargate SG-1 fan,
and Amanda Tapping fan,
and as a really weirdly big Amanda Tapping fan, man, did I watch every single episode of that.
So, dear watcher, listener, reader, wherever you're consuming this, if you are not aware, if you are a young person and not aware, Sanctuary was a show that Amanda Tapping created and put her heart and soul into making. She took all her Stargate money and
take it a step further back. Stargate is a show. No, keep going.
Take it a step back. James Spader.
Oh my god.
Oh, Dad.
From Ultron.
So this was a show about the Sanctuary housed abnormal creatures, basically cryptids, but other things too. But the big selling proposition of the show was it heavily used green screen background at a time where that was just barely on the side of passable. And so the budgets were extremely low because half the time they would just be shooting on a soundstage in a green screen background. And this doesn't seem like a very big deal because now everything is shot that way because the technology has advanced so much. But this was right when the technology was even barely there. So a big thing is the backgrounds always look computer generated no matter what, but also a big thing is the lighting is always slightly off. So they'll be in a very dark and therefore colored blue, the way that you do in film and TV background, but they've all got kind of an orange glow on them, and there's no light source that should indicate that that's coming from anywhere. And there's just so much of it. But I was really thinking about the fact that A, we produce a lot of movies and TV that way now, but B, the way the spirit and the thought process behind it, the kind of monster of the week and therefore monster CGI of the week, we have kind of lost to the Netflix 6 to 13 episode just get her done series. And I really do wonder about going back, not just to the 22 episode for the 22 episode sake, but to some lower budget, more passable productions, just to be able to create content and tell stories. That's why I love audio drama so much.
Isn't that what audio drama allows us? It allows people with a smaller budget to create incredible ideas on a large scale.
Yeah, exactly.
To purposely keep tagging in 911, that is genuinely something that has made me once again believe in the power of Monster of the Week episodes. By this point in the franchise, something that I joke about is how quickly in the episode I can guess what the theme is, based on the emergencies and who has to learn what lessons. But
You can also kind of
you know,
time the car accidents. Just
oh yeah, car accidents are the memory potions from Once Upon a Time of 911. They're just all over the place constantly.
this man.
You never know when they're going to happen. But that's the thing. And I was thinking about it in comparison to, of all things, Doctor Who. And I keep trying to think about what it is about Doctor Who that isn't really working, didn't fully work for me in season 1. And I feel like it lost some of its monster of the week, suck you into these brand new characters that you're only ever going to see once nature of storytelling that we used to get a lot more from Doctor Who in the early 2000s. That was a little bit more procedural, and that is that sort of and it's so funny, it's a Buffy term, but that was something that was such a great example of a show that would arc but would also do short form stories. And so many shows have lost that ability, and it's tough. I'm not necessarily saying it has to be 22 episodes a year again, but like it can't necessarily be everything is so heavily arc based all the time.
And you point to Buffy as a great example. Even though they weren't monsters of the week, Battlestar Galactica was essentially problem of the week. Sanctuary was monster of the week, Warehouse 13 was monster of the week, a lot of these shows, but they included arc as well. Like, it is possible to have both. We've moved just entirely to arc, and it has resulted in, even if you have a 6-episode show, there are like weirdly filler episodes because we can't always be focused on the thing. The only way you get a little bit lucky with it is if you have something like Wheel of Time, where it's a very long book and you can break that down into episodes and sort of lay out what's going to happen. But the problem there too is, like, with a lot of books, a lot of that page space is just dum-dums thinking in their stupid dum-dum brains, and it doesn't translate to TV. So even if you can like break down
I can't believe you would bring up my family's motto.
Dum-dum idiots. They're dum-dums thinking stuff with dum-dum brains.
That's the one.
Yeah, there you go. So like, it's very difficult to pull off. It's not really necessary to pull off. I will say I did like that Doctor Who this season had a really diverse bunch of what the problem of the week was.
Yes,
Doctor Who? No, the problem is always the fandom.
The thing that really struck me hard as I was thinking about it was the first 2 episodes of the new season, the gross booger monster episode and Jinx episode. And I was thinking about I was trying to think of who are the characters that we were supposed to relate to in Space Babies, and there was literally like one adult character who was a character that we could relate to that we didn't really get to know at all. And I was like, that I think is part of the problem. And I was trying to think episode to episode when we would get that character to pull us into this episode and make this episode its whole world. And that is why I was thinking about like the victims on 911, where they work so hard, and there's stories where sometimes they'll give us like flash sequences so we can see more of this person's story to really drive home the humanity. And that is part of what I felt like was missing. It wasn't even necessarily the stories weren't there, but it was like it didn't make enough of a world out of it in some ways. Like, I can't think of characters from each individual episode that drew me in the way that there were these characters that like you're supposed to think could be the next companion. And then they aren't, because, it's just one episode. But like, you're supposed to believe this person could run off with the doctor. And we didn't get anyone that we knew well enough to feel that way about.
The racists episode, I really felt like is a good example of a play on that.
Yes, 100%. I completely agree. Love that.
And then the really weird one, the one that sticks in my mind that I loved, and also is antithetical to what you're saying, but also kind of proves the point is the fairy circle one.
Okay.
Because of course it's just Ruby Sunday, and then like most of the other characters that you meet are like Kate Lethbridge Shore is the other really big participating character, who is a Doctor Who character. Like, she's never going anywhere. She's not going with him on the TARDIS, and she's also going to appear on the show a bunch. Other than that, we don't get a ton of people who fill exactly that role that you're talking about, and it's really just about kind of Ruby having this experience, and it's wonderful and beautiful. But I do hear what you're saying in terms of like, there's a little bit like we can always have episodes like that, and we can have a bunch of episodes like that, but it needs to kind of fit into a broader mission statement about what's happening. And I think it was just a little all over the place in terms of like the medic at the hospital episode where they're gonna blow up. That woman is literally becoming the next companion, but it doesn't feel like that kind of character that you were talking about. And so I don't know. Yeah, it has really been all over the place, but that the racist episode especially, she really sticks in my mind. Like, of course, by the end, she's absolutely not going to be the next companion, but it really like that the reason why that episode is so good is because they do kind of set her up for like, if he can just fix her and help her and like be there to show her a different way of life, she can be one of those people that is changed by the Doctor forever. And she is just absolutely like, no, I'm a fucking racist. And I feel like it's so rare for the show to do that. Like, the person can't go with them because they've got a family, or they're not ready, or they're too scared, or he taught them a valuable lesson and now they'll go take it into their own world. But the idea that they just fucking suck is almost always applied to the villains. It's like just the master.
Yeah. And then I guess my closing thought on the concept of arcs and shows with continuing arcs and how that can work against them. Something that's been in my mind this week is Beacon 23 and our responses to that. And most specifically, a piece of feedback that I gave and a realization that it was always going to pretend that it was an ongoing arc and was just never going to end. It was a little bit like soap in that way. There was always going to be another scaly floating alien at the end of the next episode, and it was always going to have another twist, and it was always going to continue to lead us on, I think. And in that regard, I applaud it, and I enjoy art that continues playing with these expectations. So I have enjoyed talking about all of this with you fellas, and I've enjoyed watching this gaming stream.
I gotta tell you, the other Hugh Howey project that is not going to suffer from that is Silo, which is getting its 4 seasons to tell the entire thing, the entire adaptation of the books, and then it's definitely getting the 4 seasons. Like, they've renewed it.
Right.
The 3rd one is shooting, but then they're done. It's so weird that those are his 2 adaptations, because Silo is like beautifully faithful, but it does what it needs to do to be a TV show. They're figuring it all out. It is very arc based, and yeah, I mean, like, it is definitely further proof that this is not the best system, because it could be a bit more of a problem of the week show, and it is fully like, there were definitely episodes this season where I'm like, you are literally treading water in order to just like have this episode exist. So by like 5 minutes of story reveal that come at the end can get us to the next episode. But all in all, that one has been good. I really, Beacon 23, the fact that it was Beacon 23 in name only, by such a huge margin, will blow my mind forever. One day I will meet somebody who's like, oh yeah, I worked on that show, and I will be able to ask them what in the fuck was going on. I have to know.
What was the idea? What was the plan? Was there
Truly.
a plan? I don't think so. And that's okay. Sometimes that's just how life works. It's how I live my life. And if you want to ask me about how I live my life, you can find me over on the socials at KEVO Really. You can find our socials scrolling on the banner at the bottom, as always. You can find links to our previous broadcasts, to many different playlists featuring our different broadcasts, including our gaming playlist, our broadcasts of 2025, our best of, all of those great things. Tons and tons of links. So check us out, and make sure to especially check us out on Linktree, where you can find all cool stuff like that.
Yeah.
All right. So TK, have you signed off yet?
Have I signed off?
Because
yeah. Sorry, no. Hi. Sorry, middle on day. I'm TK Accidental. You can find me mostly on Blue Sky at TK Accidental, and I'll probably be there panicking about how I'm never flying again.
fascinating when we're flying in a week. You can find me at NICO Action. That's NICO-ACTION, and NICO Action Music. That's NICO-ACTION MUSIC. If you guys want to check out all of the amazing music that I love to put out there, I do think it's amazing, and you guys can check out all of it over at SoundCloud, YouTube, and more. You guys can check out our amazing back catalog of episodes for HTML. That's Husbands Talking More or Less, predominantly featuring KEVO and myself, as well as X's for Show and X's for Podcast, which have amazing episodes covering things like Beacon 23, Drag Race, comics, and more. You guys can check that out. You guys can check that all out at xsforshow.com and more. As for me, you guys can do me a big favor, like, comment, and subscribe. But something you guys can do for you guys can, number one, please stay safe. It's a crazy world out there. Evidently, don't fly. You guys can be brave. Evidently, fly, because we love who you are, and we want to see you guys continue to be that. And you guys, remember, please evolve daily. Who you were yesterday, amazing. Who you are today, incredible. But who you are tomorrow, that's uncanny. And we can't wait to hang out with you then. So whether you're watching this on YouTube, checking this out as a podcast, or anywhere, we think you're amazing, and we can't wait to see you again.